I'm gonna have to pseudocode today. The question right now is what I'm going to pseudocode with, because I could do it in Notepad. That's what I normally do, any kind of quick notes in. But it's not a robust editor, even for text. Get the job done, but edits would be... And how do I divide functions? Maybe I should get an actual piece of paper for this. Then I could divide it by columns. I could technically do that in Notepad, but I'd be doing it with tabs, so anytime I edit a line, I have to adjust all the columns, and that's just... Hmm. Hi. I'm not sure what to pseudocode in. Like what program? So my initial thought is Notepad. But the thing with Notepad is aside from being blinding white, it's not a very robust text editor. It gets the job done for small things, I suppose, or quick logs, but not what I currently have in mind. I mean, I could do it in a code editor. I'm not going to do it in this engine itself. That makes it a bit of a pain to access, because then I have to boot up CSE every time. Yeah, that's an old version. I wonder what we're currently on. Hmm. Maybe Visual Code? Oh yeah. The last thing I worked on was some of the script behind some of the graphical work on the starting screen. I didn't write this. I found a place that had the code, and then I edited it. Edited. Hmm. How's up with all these though? Oh, that's from a while ago. That's from a long time ago. Alright. I guess first things first, I should save it so I actually know where it is. As well as see what I can do about closing these. Hmm. Just have to close them all one by one, huh? Or something like that. And that wouldn't be in workspace. Alright, then let's save this to just self mods. Yeah, Agronoc. Yeah, that should be fine. I'm still wondering how I can get rid of the untitled workspace. It's been probably over a year since I opened this up. Hmm. Ah. See a closed workspace in there. Okay, cool. There we go. Okay, so first things first, I'd have... No, can I get this to... Will auto-detect the language, or do I have to tell it what language I'm running in? Obviously, I can't tell it OBSE, but... Maybe by the extension. Maybe. Oh, so you have the yeah, that's not highlighted. Header. Then we'd have, what was it? Quest time or something like that. I should have to brush up on the variable names. Actually, I don't need to look that up. I can just look at my old code. I have that all transcribed into text files. Alright, where's manager? There. Float fquest delay time, yes. Right. Right. Keep that around as, I guess, a reference. So, fquest delay time, more specifically, it's underscore float, right? Yeah. Fquest delay time because I have to declare variables at the very beginning in the scripting language. I can't declare variables as I go. I really do wish there was highlighting though. Even if... You know, I'll save this and install the update. I think that update might be pending for a long time. Okay. It's off in the background. That's pretty nice. Right. Okay. Hmm. And color coding would be nice. Makes things a lot easier to read at a glance. Command palette. Hmm. Oh, hello. No thanks. I wonder though, if I redefine the extension as .c, would it then treat it? Hmm. Not sure what a reload is. Seems like it's doing it anyways. Stalling time. Let me, of course, explain it. Quest stalling time. Nice. Man, I think the editor, Oblivion's editor, kind of has that. It is an old editor after all. Quest delay time. I did what? Right. We have. Oops. Script name. Followed by. What was it? Related scripts. And followed by used scripts. Followed by related variable. Related globals specifically. And use globals. Oh, I did used first, then related. Alright, whatever. Alright, then I have summary. I have description. I guess I'll do the rough. If it's the idea with pseudocoding is to basically code your program without actually using code. You know, kind of like a rough draft or summary or bullet points. The, the benefit to doing this is like prevent something that happened when I was coding Zephyros. Which is the fact that I coded all this, all this, all the accompanying functions. And I got down to the, you know, hey, we can change the appearance part. Let's apply high level changes. Which was, yeah, all the way down here. You see where this bar is. It's like right way down here. So I'm pretty much almost done. And I get here and I realize, oh, right, multi-slot items. Those are a thing. And I wanted this mod to do that. Currently, nothing accounts for that. And I had to rewrite half of this. I mean, you see how far down this is? If like 80% or more of the code is just had to rewrite, or at least re-examine. Definitely re-examine, and after that I think I rewrote. Anyway, if I pseudocode, then that means I'll go down here in the same thought process, And then I get to that point, I'm like, oh, right, I need to account for that stuff. And I'll go back and change all this. Because it's not actual code, it'll be easier to change. And yeah, I mean, the downside though is that you have to kind of know what you want and how you do it first. If you're inexperienced, I don't think you can accomplish much with pseudocode because you don't really. Maybe you know what you want, but you don't quite know how to do it. So your pseudocode might just end up being a bunch of bullet points that just say, "I want it to do this, this, and role domination." Sure. As you get more experience, this is actually the first time I've used it outside the one time my classes said we should pseudocode because everything I did in college, it was small enough you didn't need to pseudocode. Oh yeah, I don't actually do double slash in there, I do semicolons. Oh well, C++ comments, baby. Actually, I think some C-style comments work too. I think C-style comments worked. I don't think I used them though. Maybe I tried them. That's why I recall that. But I definitely would have kept how I do comments uniform. It's important for anyone who's not you reading things that there's a standard. Because I mean, coding is programming languages. They're already kind of like a half step in between binary and English. So making it easier to read for others is always a good thing. Well, unless you don't want people copying or understanding your code, then I guess you want to keep things as obtuse as possible. In fact, there are code obfuscators too. There are programs that run through your code and make it as unreadable as possible while still doing the exact same thing. I learned about those pretty late in my college career. This is really just the general header, though, ain't it? Yeah, we don't. The closest I ever got to binary was assembly language, which I liked assembly language, but I don't think I'd code a whole program in that. Like, just a function call that's like one line in C++, that takes like, at a minimum, 8 lines of assembly code to get the exact same effect. Because we're just that much closer to the binary level. It's, oh man. You can do some really fine optimizations there, and it's really cool to see how it all like works under the hood. But man, I don't think I want to do anything large than that unless I have to. After semi-scripts code was what? Right, declaration of variables. I don't know why I'm commenting everything. I mean, I get why I commented the earlier stuff because these would be commented before, but like down here, how would I comment this? You know, I may make a folder for pseudocode and then just have pseudocode docs for all the scripts because that would be nice. I don't have to worry about, say, doing freaking columns like that. So if this was in Notepad, I'd have to either lay it all out vertically in one text doc, or I guess multiple text docs, or lay it out horizontally. And laying it out horizontally means I have to keep an eye on the tabs, and that's not good. Or rather, that's tedious. Super tedious. I've done tables in Notepad. It really is tedious. And they don't always work because some people have different tab sizes, which is why I remember when my professors told me, like, when he does headers, he doesn't actually tab, even though it's a lot faster. Instead, he does spaces because different computers can have different tab sizes. But spaces are uniform. Make sure it looks the same no matter what. I think I use tabs though. I think that was in the README, I want to say. Yeah, here's one table that I had to do. Probably, yeah, those are tabs. And I think, yeah, there's also one for just Faragon for the mimicry. Okay, that's yeah, another table. And there was yes down here, this table. Yeah, tables are tables. That's why they're called tables. Alright, so I declare variables. It's fine and dandy. Alright, I need to... Again, the point of pseudocode is I don't have to consider all the different variables I need in naming all of them. I can just go back and edit shit. Like, I can completely forget about all of the level up requirement stuff for now and just focus on any other section because I can just come back to it and edit. And because it's not actual code, I don't have to be careful with my edits. I can just push your entire stuff. Like I can ignore mimic variables for sure and keybinds until I need them. Resistances though. Should the jewelry have resistances though? Does it really provide protection? I mean, kinda, mildly, but not really. Okay, I know I left some enchantments out from armor because I wanted to save them for jewelry because those enchantments could get very broken very easily, and I wanted to make sure that if it was just jewelry, you only had 3 things you could stack instead of like 8. So I know it's not included in the Zephyrus' enchantment table. Should apply to jewelry. But what about the overlap? That's what I don't fully remember. So there should probably or not. Maybe jewelry includes everything. That would be possible. Oh yeah, latency stuff. Index validation. Oh right. Right, because I have to validate your memory stuff every time. Fact is, I could have just left it so that way if, say, you uninstalled a mod from for a weapon that you know, mimicked, that you just pull it out and be like, oh, missing mesh. And then you go, oh, right, because I uninstalled that. And just tell them on the mod page, yeah, there's soft dependency now if you mimic that thing. Nah, instead, I'm like, let's just go a step further and make sure the user doesn't have to care about that. And where the hell even is it? I feel like there should be a block for the check, but I don't. Okay, I don't. My gosh, it's still the initializer. Holy crap. Ah, yeah, this one. And these two function calls definitely, if I ever change around the list ordering, these two function calls will actually adjust all your saved outfits so that they still work, still point to the right stuff, which is really nice. An extension of what else I did with a mimicry validation. Where the hell even is that validation? Enchantments, set resistances, enchantments, merge and set form. Huh. Okay, clearly a skim did not reveal to me where that check is. Should be close to the beginning though, I think. Set debug mode, cleanup. Ah, there it is. A single function call, validate mimic. I think I had that be a block of code when I initially did it, is what I was remembering. So I get your mimic data, and I validate it, and then I add it onto the giant ass freaking table of all the different meshes you can use, and then I save it just to like be sure changes are set, and then yeah. Should probably keep the folder open. How's that? Validate mimic. Alright. Oh yeah. Yeah. Ah yes. So armor is item 0, sure. Is there a catch in here? Or what? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. I thought I was setting a bunch of paths to the same item. Like, why am I overwriting them? Because I'm not. I didn't read closely enough. Setting the male biped path, female biped path, the ground mesh, male and female, and then the icons, male and female, all to that item. Then we call validate biped item. Yeah, so this here was what? 0 equals new data 07 Or oh, that's what this is. This is binary. This is binary bitwise stuff. So I'm doing an AND mask with the slot data because the slots have numbers assigned to them. So I'm ANDing it with the slot number because if I do that, a bitwise AND, it should come out to non-zero, I do believe, or something. Yeah, there's an OR here. Hmm. Okay, that's what that parenthetical is. So yeah, that should come out to a non-zero number. Yeah, yeah, it should. I think each one was a single bit because a binary number is either 0 or 1 for every digit. And so each place is a power of 2. So if we do a bitwise AND with it, it's just one digit that's flipped to a 1 in the number. So if that number is not flipped in what's currently stored, it'll come out to a 0, which will tell us it's the wrong freaking number. And it's faster, or at least it should be faster than just doing a straight comparison. Should be faster. And that tells us we have some wrong data, so we gotta reset it. Then the other thing is just validate biped, which is we pass it the item now with all the new sets, all new paths set on it. And then we just say, hey, tell me, is this path valid? Because we can't just feed this function a path and ask if it's valid. We have to feed it an item, an actual object. So we need to set the path on the object and then give the object to the function, is this path valid? And then it will tell us yes or no. And I just need to know if one path is invalid. I don't need to know if all the paths are invalid or what path is invalid. I just need to know if any of them are invalid. If any of them are invalid, again, we get a true here on the eval because 0 will send back 0 if we have an invalid path. And then it'll reset everything again. And we just repeat this for all the items. In case everything checks out but the name is fucked. Yeah. To distinguish the mimic entry from others, because it could have the exact same name as another entry in the list, I append in parentheticals mimic to the end of it. So you'll see that in the table. And I have no idea what the actual name of the object is supposed to be. Because I have no way of knowing that beforehand specifically. While the game's running, I could get it, but I'm loading the game in. I don't know what the heck's in there. So I can't check for it, therefore I don't. I just check what I know should be there, which is this mimic part. So I'm like, yeah, if it's not there, then just slap it on there. It'll be good. To remember while debugging, I used to get like just a space in parentheses mimic, and that was the entire name. There was nothing before it. I forget why that happened though. I think the name wasn't saved. I should try to read up on some, I guess, GPA tutorials before bed. Take a note from your book. Alright, we do need a lot of arrays though. Cannot make this mod without the extension. Scripting language just does not support a lot of the stuff going on in here. There's no way to compile it without that mod for the engine. Need a mod to make mods, man. There's a lot of arrays. Oh boy. I thought about making the table. What was it? Where is it? Yeah, I thought about making the form data table be a ini file so that, a user could just go in there and edit it themselves. They don't need to know about the engine or anything. They can just go in there, edit the paths, and be done with it. But when the game is running, the command line, the console, can't make use of the extension. The construction set scripting language can't make use of the extended script. So I can't use any of this notation. And this notation is absolutely required for any of this to work. So there went that idea. Mimicry is kind of a band-aid on that front, though. I never really announced that to anyone either. Until just now. Now you know. I must take that secret to your grave, or I will send assassins upon your family. Yeah, you still kinda, as long as you keep keep loot around, you don't sell it or sacrifice it. Still store it in the mod in a way. What if I gave you multiple mimic slots? It occurs to me. Because I think definitely possible. The question is how. And by how, I don't mean how do I go about coding it, I mean how do I go about designing it. Because let's say I give you 5 slots for mimicry. Then alright, they're like all empty, and you start mimicking stuff, so then you have the last 5 things get stored. But now you have to overwrite things. You want to mimic a 6 item. So, like, how do I determine what gets overwritten? Yeah, just be menu prompt, I guess. I mean, if I do just pure mimicry, that does save me a lot of trouble of looking through the Nexus for other meshes to use and then coding them in. That mimicry is very different coding from the mesh swap. While they are ultimately the same thing to the end user, it's very different on the back end. Because with the mesh swap, I know where all the files are, so I can just say, oh, just bring up a menu with a list of meshes and be like, hey, which one do you want? That one? Okay, here's the paths, set them to the object, refresh it. Good. Mimicry is like, great. What are you looking at right now? In your inventory, what the hell's your cursor on? Okay, we got the object there. What are all of its paths? Where the hell is it in the files? Okay, we got the paths. Now set those to the object. Cool. Now we have to save those paths. Because what happens when you quit game and we don't save those paths, you have a missing mesh when you come back. Or nothing. I don't know. I forget what happened when that happened. I have to save that stuff in globals. Ah, it's more file size. I mean, not much. It's text characters, but that stuff adds up. I used to have like 3 GB of Oblivion saves because I just made a new save every time. It's very helpful given how buggy the game is, but oh man. I've completely derailed from actually pseudocoding. I mean, it's refreshing my memory on how I went about coding this, because there were so many hurdles. Because chances are, if there's something you want to do in the extended construction set, there's probably a function that does it for you. Or to be precise, there's probably a function that does the thing you want to do. Maybe it doesn't do it in like a single line call, but you can probably find all the stuff you want. They're named pretty sensibly. The issue is just how buggy it all is. Like, test everything. You'd never be sure 2 plus 2 equals 4 until you see it for yourself. Okay, so declaration of variables. I mean, here's where I do the initialization block, I suppose. So I guess I do a little bit of actual code just to help me with organizing. So, begin game mode. And then if get game loaded. Over here would be nice. It still burns. That light still burns. Alright. And of course we just init everything. Just init everything. That's what we have to do now. What else? I'm a bit ahead of myself if I say to validate stuff. Alright, it's going to assign stats. Oh yeah, assign appearance too. And at the very end, we just have to say, hey, shit's been initialized, and then end if get game loaded. Assign bowling. Yeah, assign fashion. That'll work. I kind of want to write this as if somebody else, because I do plan to include this in the docs, so other people will be reading this, or at least can read it. So being pretty frivolous and having fun with the names like assign fashion is a little bit of a stretch. And just do like initialize. What the hell even is it? Oh yeah, print C, %Z, %B initialized. That's not percent. There it is. Percent Z, percent B. Yeah, just message name. Okay. And then we do end if get game loaded. Okay. Yeah, just strict error message name. You know what? I'll BRB too. Take a little bathroom break. Fitting a return after you return. Water is good right now. Well, that's your fastest BRB yet. I have one long. One long int. I don't remember how studied in code you are, but there's different integers, which is to say that you have to designate a certain amount of memory to store a number. And so the different types of ints are basically different storage sizes. You generally want to go as small as possible, as small as you need. So that not only saves memory, it can also be faster. Well, to an extent. Because operating systems are also optimized around the most commonly used memory size. So going smaller than that may actually make things run slower, even though you're using less memory. Okay. So yeah, like usually you're using either a short int or a long int. Difference being, I guess if you're saying like it's a 32-bit operating system, which means there's 32 digits to your binary number, a short would use 16 bits, and then the long would use all 32. So the long can obviously store a much larger number. How large even was it? Quick calculator. Calculator built into the search bar. Tell me things. Oh, calculator of the search bar is 2 to the 16th power. Yeah. 65,536. By the way, the max health you can have in Oblivion is 65,535, and now you know why. It's a shorted. Because that's how many numbers you can make, but you have to reserve one spot for 0, so it's that minus 1. Now, a long int can store that. It's a huge difference in the size of a number by just doubling the space, because we're talking exponents, not digits. Crazy. Yeah, you very rarely need a number this big. Normally you're fine with just the 65,000. And then there's like words and bytes, I think. And some OS's words and shorts are kind of the same thing. A word is 2 bytes, and a byte is, I think, the smallest size you can get before you're going down into bits. I want to say that's 416. Oh, by the way, when I say byte, yeah, it's spelled with a Y. Word is spelled like word, though. But yeah, I have just one long int this entire mod. What did I even need J for? Oh, it's probably to get a return value then. Okay, there's probably a function that said this returns a long int. So I'm like, okay, I can't use a short int then. But the thing is, you can store a long int into a short int. But what happens is something called, well, if the debug stuff that you're working with is good, it'll yell at you in text form that you shouldn't be putting a long into a short. No, it's spelled properly. Yell at you by putting a long into a short. But a computer won't really care. It'll just follow the instructions, put the long into a short. And what happens is truncation, which is the fact that basically we're trying to stuff 32 bits of a number into 16, so you lose 16 bits, which means you get the wrong number. maybe, because it depends how large the number is. If the number is less than what a short can hold, then it's fine. But if it's more than what a short can hold, you got a problem. So what will the number turn out to be? I mean, I have some educated guesses, because I don't remember the last time I did this. Either it'll be an overflow or it'll just cap out. So an overflow is just the fact that once you get up to 65,355, and you add 1, it goes back to 0. Because, alright, yeah, I'll do it on here. Less burning eyes. Do it with a byte, because that's much easier. It's just 4 digits. So we have here, what was that? I think that was like, what, 1, 3. Whatever, it's a 15. So there's a 15. And then we add 1 to that, we get 16. So what happens is we have this, which should be 16. Except we're only looking at the first 4 bytes, which is 0. So 15 plus 1 is actually 0. Because there's no extra digit to carry the 1. Just end up with a bunch of zeros. And that's what overflow is. Or if you go to one extreme of what a number variable can hold, and it just kind of wraps around. Compilers usually stop this. They either cap it at the max or they throw you an error or something. You kind of have to tell them, I think these days, to let it overflow, or it has to be done in a certain way. Older stuff, though, it'll overflow. Oh, it'll overflow. Actually, even worse compilers is so you have that, and you see where 15 is, and then we add 1 to it. What will happen with the data is that it will actually carry the 1 to make the 16, but it'll carry over into other data, and now you fucked up other things. I think that doesn't really happen unless you work at maybe the assembly level. If you work in assembly language, I think this can still, you have to still be wary of this, but for most programming languages you find you shouldn't have to worry about this happening, but be aware that overflow can cause some unpredictable results. Oh, and then there's doubles. So another name for a double, I guess, would be a float, which I have a lot of floats. So you already know what an integer is, which would be 15. Well, a float, or a double, will be 15.0. Actually, a double is a float. So a float is to a short, well, a float is to a double what a short is to a long. So you have their float and your short, and then you have your double and your long. And as you can guess, the double is just twice the size of a float in terms of space. But the thing is that with once you add in decimal places, it has to reserve some of those integers here. Some of these for the decimal, so usually it splits it in half. So you have these 2 for storing the number, and these 2 for storing the decimal. Which means you've cut your maximum size from 15 all the way down to 3. But you take up the same storage space. However, this allows you to put in some more granularity. And negatives, wondering how negatives are done. They just reserve an extra byte out in the front and use this as a plus minus sign. So again, you lose out on a power too once you incorporate negatives, which is why there's a thing called unsigned integers. As the name guessed, it just assumes they're positive, which gives you that extra, gives you that bit back, so you don't have to reserve it for negatives. I think that would be a 7, at which point, if this were signed, that would be a negative 7. But of course, if we're talking unsigned, those would be, of course, a 7 and a 15. Yeah, space stuff. I mean, for the most part, you probably won't really be pressed that much on this front because A, we have a lot more storage space right now. B, we have faster processors. C, the debuggers are a lot better. So you really don't have to worry about this too much. It's good to keep it in mind though, because if you want to make sure things run really efficiently, you should pay attention to it. And in the case of my old stuff, I don't know if the compiler's good enough to actually like optimize things for me. Because because compilers can optimize for you at this point. They do by default. Just to take a look at your code, take a look at all the results and what you intend to do, and then they just, they simplify it, optimize it, make it more efficient. Of course, the more you want to optimize, the longer it takes to compile. That's integers. And of course, characters are also integers. It's just whatever the heck is looking at the value. It just says, hey, interpret this as a character instead of a number. Same data in there though. Just why you can feed numbers into, okay, so there's characters, which is literally just, it's just a number, but interpreted as a character. So you assign a number value to a character, to each letter of the alphabet, and their capital forms, because those are different. In fact, ASCII codes, I'll show you. I should just keep this open at this point. Okay, no background. That won't help you. Although I think that's the one I've been looking at for a while. Remember I did some manual translation to ASCII codes for a while. Yeah, let's see. Images. Oh, this one has background. That's not very big. It's blurry, but at least it's kind of readable. But yeah, you have the decimal number that's assigned to a character. And if you'll notice, lowercase and uppercase are different because they're different characters, of course. It's also the hex number, too, which is a shorthand for a binary. I think. Nah, I want to say it's base 6, but I think it was base 16. It's definitely not a decimal. Definitely not decimal. Because once you hit 9, they start using letters to get the other numbers. And it allows you to show really big numbers with fewer characters. Oh yeah, memory leaks. That came to mind because of the SVD structs. So yeah, it's entirely possible that a program asks for memory from the operating system. The operating system just controls all the memory and doles it out to programs that ask for it, and makes sure programs with higher priority get all the memory they need. Ones with low priority get the memory that's left over. And some programs are like, yeah, I just gotta borrow like 5 megs, man. It's 5 megs. And like, yeah, sure, here you go. And then they use it and they're done. And they don't tell the operating system they're done with that 5 megs. So when they get activated again, it's like, hey, dude, we need 5 megs. The operating system's like, yeah, sure, here's another 5 megs. And that happens, but that old 5 megs is still not released, so your max memory is technically 5 megabytes less than it should be. And this happens over a long enough period of time, you'll, of course, run out of memory. And at that point, I mean, your operating system will crash and you'll have to restart the reboot because the reboot will clear the memory. Then you should probably not use that software if you can avoid it. Something. Or you should reboot the software periodically. Again, stuff is getting better at detecting it since then, but it still happens. SVD struct though here, it's because all the variables and stuff inside scripts and function calls and whatever, those get automatically destroyed. Like you declare a variable inside of a function, and as soon as the function's over, that variable's gone. That whatever memory you need to use is just released back into the ecosystem for other functions to squabble over. But strings here, they aren't destroyed. They can be made, but they're not automatically destroyed, so you have to remember to destroy them before your function ends. Otherwise, you have a memory leak on your hands. And at one point, I did have a memory leak on my hands, and that might have been one of the reasons why my game crashes after 3 hours. Well, contributing cause. It wasn't the only cause, because it's still did, I think. Yeah. Just gotta be sure that you SVD struct all the strings that you don't need. Alright, and there's naming conventions. So, a good naming convention, I mean, whether you capitalize your variables or not is honestly up to you. But a lot of times you'll want to, what is it? Put like an L. Num is just a generic variable name, or S num, string num, or in this case I do string underscore num. And that prefix just tells you what the variable type is, so we know if this one's a long, this one's a short. These two are strings. It's something that's helpful, because you could always just go with good old X, Y, and Z. It's easy to type, good enough. Come back to this code in 2 months, and you'll wonder, what the hell are these variables? What does Z do, and why am I putting it into a freaking... Why am I putting it into the console? X, Y, and Z were used in math. Why is Z used to write essays? I have to keep looking back to where it's declared. Anyhow, that's just a common convention. Makes it easier to read. Okay, so we have game mode. We have the initializing stuff. The init everything. So then, clothes don't have, clothes just have value and weight. So we have stats, at which point, yeah, they're floats in the engine, except for maybe value. No, value I think is a long. I have a reference material right here. This is exactly why I don't have to open up the construction set. AR is a short. Surprisingly, armor, your armor value is actually like a float in game, but actually behind the scenes it's just a short, and they shift the decimal place in the UI to make it look like a float, like its decimal number. Which, I mean, clever way of making a float, but also why would you do that when you have floats? And it's the only stat they do that to. Like, there's other things with decimals and they make them floats, so clearly it wasn't a space concern. I am baffled by that decision, but that is what it is. Yeah, value is a long, and weight is a float. Oh, right, that's the multiplier. All the multipliers are floats, I think. There's some shorts there, though. Alright, so we basically need... Yeah, we need a float, right ring, weight, and float left ring, weight, and then float. Amula. Or just Amul, honestly. I don't think it matters if I capitalize float or not, but again, the consistency part. I want to be sure it's all uniform. While it has no impact on how the code runs, it does impact how the code reads. And then we need long right ring value, and then long left ring value, another long of the amulet value. Now these here are all, first of all, the base values. And then we have the multipliers. While it does sacrifice readability a bit, it is a compromise between reading and typing speed where I limit a lot of things to 4 characters. So if you understand the abbreviation, cool. But it may not be immediately apparent in some cases. It's evidenced by me reading through the code again and not realizing what some things were. I think because what happens if we put a float into a long, it's gonna get truncated, so... Yeah, there's the base, there's the mults. Yeah, all the mults are floats. Except for AR. It's freaking Bethesda. Bethesda! Alright. Float, float, float. That's really the inherent stats. Also, if I end up just coding in this, I can probably just copy and paste this into the construction set in the end. I'm probably doing that for chunks, like the variable declarations anyways. So there's stats. There's enchantment stats. It's going to be a long ass list. No durability. Oh, I need references. I need references. Right. I used self and enchant in this, which... Alright. Not too bad. Ref. Right ring. Self. Left ring. Self. Amulet. And then ref. Enchant. Right ring. Ref. Enchant. Left ring. Actually, I want to keep these 4 characters that go. Get rid of the I. But I keep typing out the I, so never mind. I think I'll leave that be. Yeah, I'd have to get used to typing without the I, which would slow me down for a bit. I could type amulet out fully though. I'll go with amulet. Yeah, they shouldn't be capitalized. Alright, so there's our references. And your stats. Then we have our enchantment stats. What else did I really need? Oh yeah, it's very student weight adjustment, because it could be heavy or light. And there's the level up variables, I'll leave that for later. Enchantment. Yeah, because a number is a int that's actually used in the game, and they don't use floats, but because the levels could be incremental, I gotta make sure to have float multipliers. What was resist? Remember that being a flag to like ignore some other stuff? I think it was like the growing enchantments could only kick in once you hit the enchantment threshold, and enchant resist, enchant resist was a flag that if ticked would allow the dynamic resistances to be applied to the armor before it hit the enchantment level. Say it gets enchanted at level 10, but you take enough fire damage to get 1% fire resistance by level 5. If that flag is not ticked, then you get that your armor will remain unenchanted, hit level 10, and the fire resistance pops up alongside the enchantment you chose. But if that flag is ticked, then as soon as you got that 1% mark at level 5, then it becomes enchanted. And now you can't repair it without a journeyman and armor, which is why I had to make sure that was the case. And start and seek. So start is definitely the level, and seek is how often you get to repick. It's like every 5 levels, I think, by default, you get to pick another enchantment. Oh boy, these. Okay, so these 4-character gibberish is actually from the engine itself, and these are abbreviations for the spell at effects. It was like Fortify Attribute, Fortify Skill, Fortify. Frick was F. Oh, fatigue. Fortify fatigue, fortify health, fortify SP, also known as Magicka. Or spell points, apparently. What was Oh, regenerate. Yeah, I think. No, restore. Restore fatigue, restore health, restore Magicka. And shield. And feather. And reflect damage. And reflect. I think it was just reflect. Reflect spell specifically. And then there was Sabs. The heck was Sabs? I want to say it's absorb. Spell absorption. Right. Shield. So I let the shield take some of the jewelry enchants because shield's in that awkward spot in games where, like, is it armor? Is it a weapon? Is it something else entirely? Games can't really come to a consensus on what the shield is in regards to that categorization. So I gave it the special ability to use the jewelry exclusive enchantments on it too. So you actually have 4 sources for some of this stuff. So jewelry will have those 3 as well. There's opportunity cost to it because you could also say put chameleon onto the jewelry. Which, I mean, chameleon will break the game, but man, you're gonna have to invest in a chameleon. Because if you invest in chameleon, you're not getting the reflect stuff, you're not getting the spell absorption, you're not getting anything else, you're just getting chameleon on there. And I'm gonna make sure that by default, because you will be able to tweak this to be however strong you want, but by default it's gonna grow very slowly, so you'll have to invest in chameleon heavily to get it to a broken state. I will still let you get to a broken state, but you're gonna have to work for it. Or just tweak the ini file and, like, yeah. I don't think most people will do that though. Some people don't even know what an integer is. Even though I make all this stuff assuming people will read it, you also need to fully realize like 80% of the people that download your mod are not going to read anything about it. They're just going to download it, enable it, and start being stupid. So you gotta make sure that the default state of the mod is very workable and not horrible and doesn't need adjustments and they don't have to do anything. So even though they're stupid, they don't. If something goes wrong, they're probably going to think it's the mod's fault because they didn't read. So you gotta idiot proof things. And if you're doing a heavily modded game like I am, I get why you maybe don't want to read things because it takes hours and hours to read through all the documentation for everything you want to use. It took me 3 days to read through all the documentation for the mods I was using. I get that. Even more reason to do what I do and make sure that it just works out of the box. No tweaks necessary. You can still tweak it if you want, but you better read. Okay, there's going to be a lot of enchantments though. So I'm probably going to include all the enchantments that are on the armor, including the shield as well as some extras. But there's really going to be a lot. Except for maybe shield. Or feather. Or feather. Okay, so there's a bug with feather that if you have more than one source of the feather enchantment, or just the feather effect, it fucking bugs. It doesn't count the other effects. Something like that. Like, it just doesn't work if you have more than one source of feather. And I think as I have it now, you can put feather on all of the pieces, and I want to keep that freedom where you put feather on the part you want, but I also want to try and work around that bug so I can only have feather on one part. I'm not sure if I should do that or if I should just warn them about that bug. Or I could replace it with a scripted effect. Honestly, I could. So I could replace feather with a scripted effect called feather that adds the feather effect. So that way you can have the scripted effect on all the parts and it won't matter, but then the scripted effect just kind of gives you one source of feather and just one source of feather. But I'd have to track how much feather is on each of them. I mean, it'd kind of be in the name, but like, uh, 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 I know I could do that, but it's gonna be hard. Or maybe not. Maybe hard's the wrong word. I don't want to do it. Is what I'm getting at. I do not want to do that. I know I could do it, but I don't want to do it. Man, keybinds. And mimicry, and resistances, and latency. Yes. Are there key listeners? That's one thing I think I got a no from, but I don't think it was a definitive no. Oh yeah, all the flags. Of course, make them shorts because we want. If the flag is just going to be one bit, it's either a 0 or a 1. 0 or it's not 0. So I'll make it as small as I can, and I don't think I can go smaller than a short though in the scripting language. So yeah, it's a lot of wasted space, but oh well. Mm. Okay. I don't know if I want resistances on jewelry. Dynamic resistances, that is. Have those on the armor because it's the whole deal with the armor is that functionally speaking, the more damage you take, the less damage you take. But AR only covers physical attacks, not magical. So I did the same thing for magical, where it's like, oh yeah, you took so much fire damage, and here, give you fire resistance. But do I want that for the jewelry? Because the jewelry doesn't have AR. I mean, I could give it AR. I can make an armor item, and then give it 0 AR, and then maybe allow you to change that ini file. But also, like, I just have to tick the slot off, really, that says, hey, this is armor. And it goes on the ring slot. And the engine will just be like, okay, take you for your word. This helmet goes on your fist. Understood.
I think you're gonna need clothing though. The game treats all the other jewelry as clothing, so which only has weight and value. See, I don't think it'll have dynamic resistances then. It may. It may. I may change my mind later on. But given it doesn't really offer straight up protection against things, I think that's fine. I may allow the absorb elements though, if that's possible. Because I think there's like absorb fire. If there is absorb fire, then yeah, I'll allow that as like an option to choose. But I'm not gonna do the dynamic resistance of get fire resistance for taking fire damage. Which I would like to redo that, because I didn't fully understand how the listeners worked back then. I gained a little bit of better understanding after I released it and found a bug. I allowed you to get XP from all the fighting going on, so okay, that requires some explaining. But basically, I kind of learned why the handler wasn't behaving, or at least have a educated guess as to why the handler just wasn't really working right. Because it was like, it's a handler that can tell me the spell that somebody hit you with. But it was telling me the spells that everything was hit with. If a spell hit anything, it was fired by anyone and it hit anything, the handler would tell me what that spell was. And I just wanted to know what spells hit you with the player. And I couldn't get it to filter that out. Because apparently. Alright. This is what caused the bug. Player and player F. These are the same thing. These are the same thing because it wants to make sure it's shorter. You don't have to type in player ref every time. But they're not the same thing. No, they are not. Because for some functions, player doesn't work. You have to use player ref. That's what caused the bug with an XP handler. The XP handler was like, hey, you took damage. Let's add XP to you. And that was fine because I was just by myself with my summon, just pissing off my summon so he'd attack me. And I get to test the XP functions and they worked. Cool. But then, like, I was out there actually playing with it. And I'm like, why am I getting thousands of XP? And these aren't even me. Like, it's not I got hit by me. No, it's like Assassin got hit by Joffrey. I'm like, what? Why am I getting XP for that? Because I had player in the listener as the filter. Even though player is supposed to be the same as player ref, but it's not. So I got that fixed, and that's probably why the handler for telling me what spells you got hit by was also giving back wrong information or unwanted information. Of course, I still have to factor in a lot of things though with the spells because I can get the spell which will give me the base stuff, but the spell stats are also affected by your efficiency in that school of magic and your spell efficiency, which is affected by your race and your birth sign and your armor worn. I think you can get the stat directly though, but like I have to do some freaking multiplying or whatever because for some reason I can't just get how much fire damage you took. I can't just say, oh yeah, you took 2 points of fire damage, let's add that onto the total for the resistance build thing stuff. But no, it's like you got hit by for 10 points of damage. All right, write down 10 points of damage for the XP. What's the elemental breakdown? I don't know. So now I have to like look at what you got hit by and then check the enchantment on the weapons or check the spells. And then I have to look at the base stats, but I have to compensate for the fact that the base stats are going to be reduced by your armor, and also by the spell efficiency, and also by whatever the heck else goes on. And basically recreate the damage formula. And I'm like, I ain't doing that. Get hit by physical and fire. 5 points physical, 5 points fire. There, done. And that's what I did. But if I can get enough information, I might be able to do the more accurate approach, which would be more satisfying for me, especially if I can do it in a timely manner. Because, I mean, the game is running in real time. I have one frame to do all the computations, and I mean, my computer handles it. I assume most people's computers can handle it. Maybe the engine can't handle it. I don't know if this mod works, say, back when it came out in 06, because, I don't know, maybe the processor's not fast enough to handle the glory of my creations. But they are now. I don't have to worry too much about speed, but I still will. It's freaking real time. I have a frame to compute everything. I could ask on the Nexus forums or something. Because I got over 1,000 DLs onto Spherigon, and I actually got into a modders exclusive Discord for the Nexus. Where is it? Where did I put that? Or did I leave it already? Oh, there it is. Nexus mods, mod authors. Yeah. Damn, man, the Oblivion section. The last chat was from August 20th. Oh boy. Yeah, if you release a mod and get over 1,000 DLs on it, you should get an invite. At some point, I didn't know it existed, and then one day I got the invite when I was at like 1,500 downloads because I got a message shortly after saying like, yeah, our whole invite system was kind of borked, so sorry for late invites. So yeah, I have access to some exclusive modder forums on the Nexus. Should probably and I'll ask around there because if I ask around like on the regular forums, I'm gonna get people who don't know anything about coding or modding, and people who are just gonna troll. Well, if I do it on the modders forum, I'm still gonna get people who don't know how to do it, but they'll at least give me good faith answers and like try to help or just say, hey, here's a mod that might do something that looks like what you want. Mm. Alright, enchantments. Okay, where the hell do I have the UESP though? Because I do believe they've been closed, and I feel like I would have bookmarked these. Now it's time to find the bookmarks. Oh, not sure. Alright, let's look up. Is it UESP? No, it wasn't UESP. Okay, I have the OBSC command doc there, but I don't have the. Oh boy.
So I have the local file bookmarked, but I don't see. Don't see the web one. Because the OBSE commands doesn't include the basic ones in its list. Because that's why I always had to have those 2 pages up. Where was it? Instruction set, maybe? There we are, list of functions and magic effect lists. Okay, I don't really need list of functions right now, so I'd rather have list of magic effects. So you have the 4-letter codes here on this column, and then what they actually are here. And I have force dark pages on, which, I mean, not every site has a dark mode, so it kind of ad-libs it a bit. Let's turn that off. It's bright, but it's easier to read. Kinda. Okay, with the green background, it's really hard to read though, like that, so I'll stick with here. Okay, so there's absorb attribute, absorb fatigue, absorb health, absorb skill, absorb magicka. I don't know, absorb fire. Oh. See, bound boots or bound stuff. Don't really want bound stuff though. Burden. I don't think I'd want burden. I mean, I could give you the option to throw burden on there. Who knows? Who knows? But okay. Bound weapons. Calm. That's not really useful in jewelry. Chameleon. That'll be in there. Charm. That's cast on someone else though, not yourself. You want fortify personality or fortify speechcraft on yourself. You're already there. Command, that's on the weapons. Cure disease. I'd want more so resistance than cure though. Demoralize, weapon, damage stuff. Disintegrate, so would not. No thanks. Drain, nah. Dispel, maybe? I don't think so. Detect life, yes. Detect life I will allow. Fire damage, fire shield. Oh, right, fire shield. Right, there should be frost shield and shock shield too. Yeah. That's basically shield, but for those specific elements. How do those work again? Did it just like add to your AR, or was it like its own air? I think it doubles. I think it double dips with resistance. Either it double dips or they just add together. So it's kind of pointless to have shield and resistance. I don't know. There's the fortify stuff. There's a fortify magicka multiplier. I don't really know what that does. Actually, I vaguely remember what that does. I think You know that like racial bonus that you get for Magicka? I think it multiplies that. Fortify skill, fortify Magicka, frost damage, frenzy. Don't want that. Feather. I mean, I'll allow it, but I'll have to advise against it, I suppose. Invisibility. No, no. There's Chameleon. I'll let Chameleon go, but invisibility is a no. Because having a wardrobe with invisibility means it never breaks, and that's just immediately broken. Oh, light. Yes, I will allow light. I mean, I'm not quite sure why you'd want permanent light. I can see why though. You wouldn't need to carry a torch, and you can just take the ring off. Honestly, if you just have that one ring for utility or just for light, then you can just keep stacking light on it, and then you just take the ring off when you don't want to be a miniature sun. Bonus points for specializing in fire magic. Night Eye, I will allow Night Eye, but I'm not sure how it would scale. Maybe if I combo Night Eye and Light. No, no, that kind of defeats the purpose of Night Eye. Maybe Night Eye and Chameleon go together? Because Night Eye is just an on or off thing. So, like, I could just say, okay, here's Night Eye, and now it's no longer on the list because they can't upgrade Night Eye. Or I could combo Night Eye with something else. Be like, yeah, you get this effect, but you also get Night Eye. Because maybe you want Night Eye. Maybe you don't. Because, I mean, having night vision, cool. But the way they did it in the base game, it's very bothersome shader they put over everything. So that you kind of don't want Night Eye. So in that way, it can kind of a negative to balance something out. Maybe again, that's why I say maybe Chameleon, because both it fits with the theme of stealth, but also it's another reason to deter you from using Chameleon and breaking the game with when you get to 80% Chameleon and nobody can detect you. Rally? I mean, it's not useful for the player, but Rally's not really useful for the player, but maybe it's useful for AI if you want to, say, give the ring to a companion. Restore attribute? Yeah. I mean, maybe. Maybe. I'm not sure how constant restore effect works, though. Actually, I kind of have an idea. It'll probably do nothing until you get hit with an attribute drain spell, or attribute damage spell specifically. Drains are temporary while damage is permanent until removed, except for when it comes to your primary attributes of Magicka, health, and fatigue, where the drain attacks the max and then the damage attacks the current value. Which is kind of the same thing in health's case, though, because health does not regenerate over time. Poison info is apparently a spell effect. Oh, right. That's probably for poisons. It's most likely scripted then. Let's see. Reflect damage? Yes, I will allow that. Restore fatigue, restore Magicka health, whatever. I'll allow those. Those are highly weakened on the armor, but they are still there. Reflect spell? Yes. Resist disease. It's in there in the armor, though. It's one of the dynamic ones. All the resists are in there. Resist disease, resist fire, resist frost, resist magic, resist normal weapons, resist paralysis, resist poison, resist shock. Those are all there. But there's the weird one of resist water damage, which seems to only affect the damage you take when you're in lava, which is weird. And this is why I say you should name your variables appropriately. Spell absorption, I'll allow. The script effect, which of course I'll have to code. I mean, if I come up with a cool
script effect idea, then I'll add it. I'll throw it in there. But for now, that's whatever. For shield, I think I'll allow, because AR is hard capped at 85, I think, or was it 95? Forget. Or 90? I just remember that they lowered it in Skyrim by a bit. So I want to say it's 95. Unless it was 85 or... whatever, there's a hard cap on AR. So shield won't get too out of hand because you can't hit 100% with that. There's silence, but that's a negative effect, never mind. You could have soul trap on yourself or sun damage. Water breathing, water walking. That's in the same vein as Night Eye, honestly. I don't think I'd pair them together. It is cool. It does make a degree of sense to pair the water breathing and water walking together because they both handle the same thing, but they're also very, very powerful effects when it comes to exploration. So I think I'll have them be individual. And I will leave them as is. And it just occurred to me that I could make the light effect a scripted effect and then make a hotkey for toggling the light, so don't actually have to remove the ring to get rid of the light. You could just hit a hotkey and the light will turn off or on. But would that work is another question, though. Because that may not work. No, it may. As long as the scripted effect is there on the thing, and then I just say, alright, it's scripted effect on you, and you have the hotkey pressed. Yes, then just toggle the light effect. But then I have to determine if the light effect's actually from the freaking script or not. That's just... I can probably do that, but still. It's a hassle. Maybe worth doing, however. Oh, there's the weakness stuff. I don't know why you'd want weakness. I mean, if some people want weakness, I guess I could add it. But for now, I'll just assume nobody wants weakness. And there's a summon effects. So, okay, there's no absorb stuff, except for spell absorption. No absorb fire. Just fire shield. Okay. Let's just put down all the shorthand then. When you do variable names or anything. Okay, so what is there? Skip the bound stuff, skip burden. Million. CHML. Charm is something I'd cast on somebody else, not on yourself. Same with the calm. The commands. There's the cures, but I mean, I could allow for flat resistances, I guess. But still. Like, say, a flat resist disease that you could choose, and that levels up manually alongside the actual resist disease you get dynamically. Eh. See, disintegrate stuff, no thanks. Protect life is TTCT. Fire shield.
fish. And then there's Frost shield. And I'm guessing Shish for shock shield. No, it's Lish. Alright, so there's your shields. And then we have Fortify attributes, so flat. Fortify. Fortify. Teak. And then full heck. Leave. Yes, full heck. Fortify health. Fosp. Fortify Magica. Fosk for Fortify skill. Dude, the Fortify skill tree is like frick. Okay, so they're like. Okay. Did you ever use Zephyros? I gotta ask that, because I don't have to explain too much about this if you have. Because, like, the Fortify attribute. Oh god. It wasn't that hard, just freaking tedious. It's an enchant choice. Yeah. Restore enchantment. Fortify. Yes, I could choose skill. Yep. It's a Fortify attribute enchantment. I had to do 3 pages. Fortify skill. Like, I had to implement paging. Because of the Fortify effect. Like, oh. Oh. You didn't use them. Oh well. But I had to implement Fortify. So, like, yeah.
The message box that Oblivion has supports up to 10 buttons on it. Can't have more than 10. Have to have at least one. So, of course, we have 4 spell effects, and it's like, alright, we have 10 effects. They fit. Then we have, like, Fortify. And like, alright, now we need paging. Now we need to implement paging in this menu. So you can go back and forth from the main selection to the Fortify subselection. Then from the Fortify, you have to choose whether you want an attribute or a skill or like a main attribute. And then from there, you have to select that. And the skills. Skills, there's like 21 of them. So it's like 3 pages. Skills. You have to go like 5 pages deep into this menu. That was not designed with paging. I had to implement that myself.
Eesh. I'd done it before though, so with this Farragon. Alright, so it's Fortify skill. Frenzy, no. Feather, I guess. Visibility is a no. Legit is light. Night Eye. Yay. It's open, paralyze, rally, reanimate. Restore attribute. I really don't know how that would work. So I think I'll refrain. Although maybe the page says what I'd like to know. If the page will load, I'll just continue while that tries to load. Oh yeah, because my browser has a built-in VPN, my pages load a bit slow usually. Or sometimes. It doesn't have a page on the script site, so I guess I'm not sure how it works. Maybe if I look on the wiki, UESP, I'll find out how, but oh well. No, let's look there. Yeah, the list I'm looking at again. Let's see, UESP store attribute. Oblivion restore attribute. Increase the 5 targets for attribute endpoints each second for d seconds. Duration is 1 second. If not specified, the total increase is m times d points. Restore attribute only repairs previous damage, i.e. from a damage attribute effect. Non-increase attribute values pass or base values. Also, restore attribute will not heal the effects of a drain attribute effect, because, yeah. Internally, all of the various restore attribute effects are considered to be the same, so running restore luck, for example, will give you access to all 8 restore attribute commands at the spellmaking altar. So, yeah, I'm not sure how that would work on gear, because it might tick faster, or may still tick once a second while it's on gear. And of course, beyond the basic addition, like if you aren't fighting a Spriggan, you aren't really getting hit with like damage attribute stuff that much. The Spriggan has like a power that damages your luck by 50. Pretty ridiculous, but alright. And luck actually affects your damage dealt too, so yeah, that's annoying. Go to an altar though and pray, and you'll get all your damage attributes restored. Drain, you just wait out. Yeah, I really don't know if I want to have restore on here or not. Or if I want to implement it as a dynamic resistance thing where it's like, oh no, you got hit with a damage attribute spell, like let's take up some restore attribute XP. And when that's high enough, you then get like passive restore that attribute, which actually sounds pretty cool. It actually sounds pretty cool. I may do that. Alright, that aside, the restore attribute reflect damage. Sorry, there's reflect. Yeah, reflect damage. Damage, restore attribute, restore stuff, so restore fatigue. Restore health. Gotta get some resp, man. Just gotta get some resp. Restore Magicka, and then we have RFLC for Reflect Spell. I can clearly tell they just said RFLC for Reflect, and they're like, wait, there's also Reflect damage. Shit, what do we call that? Just gonna put those. Actually, yeah, I'll group them down here. Start Reflect Spell, then resist damage, resist disease, resist fire, resist everything. Spell Absorption. Sabs. There's Shield. Silent, stunted magic, soul trap, sun damage, telekinesis, turn into vampirism, water breathing, water walking, and then it's the weaknesses. So, Wabra. It's water walking. Wawa. Wawa. Anyway, these are all the effects then. And then I'll just do, it's probably restore rat or something for a star attribute. Yeah, so now all these need... Frick. The tedium. Oh, the tedium. Hey, it's 2237. Man, I actually started getting into coding now. I mean, pseudo-coding, but still. So yeah, I have enchantment stats and base stats and reference IDs. And a string. Just one string. Yeah, that's like what? 1, 2, 3. 22 enchantment effects. Jeez. That's 3 pages already. Kind of. Maybe. I can combine the fortifies and the restores together. So that cuts it down. So probably like 2 pages. Then I have to... Water breathing, water walking will be on our own. Night Eye, I guess, will be on its own then. Where's a toggle? I could make it a toggle with light. Could combine the two together into one effect and say, hey, you get Night Eye and light, and here's some hotkeys to toggle both of them. But maybe not. Could be a bit overly ambitious. And also that's just 2 more keys I have to use, and I'd rather not. I mean, I have no idea what keys other mods use. So, you know. Feather fortifies shock shield. Again, I could pair it with chameleon. Maybe not. Maybe no, not the tech life. I would not pair it with the tech life. Tech life can already make it hard to see things. I think Night Eye might be on its own. Water breathing and water walking are definitely on their own. Those are powerful spells. They will take up all 5 of your levels or whatever the heck it is. But at the same time, should they really? Because the seek increments, like you could change it from every 5 levels to every 10 levels or every 7 levels or every 1 level, at which point you're wasting a certain number of levels and an indeterminate amount of levels when you pick water breathing or water walking or Night Eye, because they don't scale, so they have to scale with something. They have to give a secondary effect at that point in order to scale. And I guess I'll just have to think about that. Because we're 10 minutes over. So thanks for watching. You've now heard a bit of my internal thought process, because I have really started to get going. And you learned a bit, I guess. I don't know if you actually will internalize any of what I've told you, or if it'll even be that helpful for you, but still, it's there. Yes, good night, Schmiff. Tomorrow we go through that the TLC Alyssa warned us about.